Thunder splits the Louisiana sky. March 14, 1847, midnight. The marble staircase of the Beaumont mansion gleams wet with rain and something else. At the bottom step, shattered into 1,000 crystalline pieces, lies Madame Beaumont's most prized possession, her grandmother's French cameo, the one she swore she'd never remove. The one that held the secret compartment. The one now broken open, its hidden letter exposed to the storm wind howling through the open door. A single candle flame flickers in the darkness above, and a heartbeat rapid, terrified echoes in the silence between thunderclaps. This is the night everything changed. The night a secret buried in silk and sin finally clawed its way into the light. The night that would destroy one of Louisiana's most powerful families and birth a legend that still haunts the bayou. This is the story they erased from your history books. His name was Etienne Marchand, but to the Beaumonts he was simply the Creole boy, born to a free woman of color and a French merchant who denied him. Etienne occupied that dangerous space Louisiana society refused to acknowledge, too light to be enslaved under law, too dark to be free in practice. When his mother died of yellow fever, 14-year-old Etienne was apprenticed to Governor Thomas Beaumont's household under an indenture contract that everyone knew was slavery by another name. By 1847, at 23 years old, Etienne had become invisible in the way only servants can be, present in every room, witness to every secret, but never seen as fully human. Feel his calloused hands as they grip the 400-pound crates of imported wine the governor demands for his legendary soirees. Feel the way his shoulders burn as he carries them down the narrow servants' stairs, his breath coming in ragged gasps, sweat stinging his eyes despite the February cold. Feel his heartbeat, that treacherous rhythm whenever Madame Adelaide Beaumont enters a room, that forbidden thunder in his chest that he knows could get him killed. She was 28, blonde, beautiful in the way that Southern society worshipped delicate as porcelain, with eyes like winter sky. Married at 16 to a man 20 years her senior who spent more time in the governor's mansion in Baton Rouge than in their New Orleans estate. And she was lonely. It started innocently, or so Etienne told himself, a book left in the parlor. Adelaide asking his opinion because none of the other servants could read. A conversation about Victor Hugo that stretched longer than propriety allowed. Her hand brushing his as she took the book back, lingering a heartbeat too long. Then came the coded letters. Adelaide would leave notes in the library, tucked inside volumes of French poetry. The camellias need tending at midnight meant meet her in the garden house. The piano requires tuning meant the music room after the household slept. Etienne knew every note was a step closer to death. Louisiana law was explicit. Even the suggestion of relations between a white woman and a man of color could result in castration, lynching, or burning alive. It didn't matter if he was legally free. It didn't matter if she initiated everything. If caught, only he would burn. But feel the weight of her gaze across the dinner table as he serves the governor's guests. Feel the electricity when their hands touch in the darkened hallway. Feel the impossible, suffocating weight of a desire that society has declared criminal, not immoral, not wrong criminal. The affair burned for 8 months like a fever. In stolen moments between the governor's absences. In the garden house where the magnolia branches hid them. In the music room where Adelaide would play, Chopin while Etienne stood guard, and then she'd pull him to her with hands that trembled with need and recklessness and the power of a woman who'd never been told no. But in New Orleans Creole community, the old women knew. They always knew. Etienne's godmother, Marie Laveau, not the famous voodoo queen herself, but a woman who carried that powerful name and the knowledge that came with it, called him to her cottage in the Treem. "Boy, you walking with death on your shoulder," she whispered, her fingers tracing symbols in brick dust on her floor. "That woman gonna destroy you." She'd been marked since she was born, see it in her eyes. Empty things, hungry things. She'd take and never fill up. She pressed something into his Palma grease bag containing cemetery dirt, sulfur, and something else he couldn't identify. "When the reckoning comes, and it's coming, child, I seen it in the bones, you throw this at her feet. The curse she carrying, it'll finally see her. It'll finally know her name. Etienne laughed it off. He was educated, modern. He didn't believe in curses. When the reckoning comes and it's coming, child, I seen it in the bones, you throw this at her feet. But he kept the bag. And 3 nights later, Adelaide gave him her grandmother's cameo necklace, the one she never removed, as a token of her love. Inside its secret compartment was a letter she'd written, declaring her love, speaking of a future that could never exist. Keep it safe, she whispered against his neck. It's proof that what we have is real. The moment his fingers closed around it, the necklace burned ice cold. That night, Etienne dreamed of water rising, of hands pulling him down, of Adelaide's face distorted and laughing as he drowned. He woke gasping, and the necklace on his nightstand was covered in condensation, though the night was dry. Governor Beaumont returned early from Baton Rouge on March 14, 1847. There are multiple versions of what happened next. The official story, the one printed in the Daily Picayune, said that a deranged indentured servant attacked Madame Beaumont and had to be restrained, but the whispers told a different story. The governor found them in the music room. Not in the act itself, but in the aftermath, Adelaide's hair unpinned, Etienne's shirt untucked, the air thick with what had just transpired. The governor's face went from red to white to purple. He grabbed the fire poker from the hearth. What happened next was chaos. Furniture crashing, Adelaide screaming. The governor's bellows of rage. Etienne running, the cameo necklace clutched in his hand because Adelaide had thrust it at him, hissing, hide it, they'll destroy the letter. He made it to the stairs. The governor caught him at the landing. They struggled, and that's when Etienne threw the necklace down the stairs, where it shattered on the marble below, its secret letter spilling into the open just as Adelaide reached the top of the stairs. For one frozen moment, all 3 of them stared at that letter, Adelaide's handwriting, unmistakable, declaring her love for E and speaking of their child that might be. The governor's face transformed into something inhuman. And Adelaide did something that saved her life and damned her soul. She pointed at Etienne and screamed, "He forced me! He bewitched me! He's the devil!" They chained Etienne in the cellar. Feel the iron biting into his wrists. Feel the cold stone against his back. Feel the betrayal burning in his chest worse than any physical wound, not that she dethroned him to the wolves to save herself, but that some part of him had always known she would. The governor brought the sheriff, the priest, a doctor to examine Adelaide and confirm her violation. They brought men with torches and ropes, ready to drag Etienne to the nearest oak tree. But Etienne, sitting in those chains, finally opened the grease bag his godmother had given him and scattered it across the cellar floor. He spoke words she'd taught him. Words older than Louisiana, older than New Orleans, older than America itself. What she took, let it turn to ash. What she lied, let it speak truth. What she is, let all eyes see. And upstairs something changed. Adelaide, in the middle of her testimony to the sheriff, suddenly stopped speaking. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came. Then, in front of 6 witnesses, she began to speak in a voice that wasn't hers, a deep, rasping voice that the priest would later swear was demonic. She confessed everything. Every meeting, every letter, every lie. She named herself the seducer, the initiator, the one who used her power to coerce a young man who had no ability to refuse her. The words poured out of her like poison, and she couldn't stop them. When she finally collapsed, blood was running from her nose, and the cameo's chain, which they placed back around her neck, had burned a perfect circle into her skin. The room fell into horrified silence. Governor Thomas Beaumont's career ended within a week. The story couldn't be contained. Too many people had witnessed Adelaide's possession. The letter was real. The affair was undeniable. The fact that she tried to send an innocent man, indentured or not, to his death to cover her shame made her a monster in the eyes of even her own class. But the Gothic South could unquite process the idea that a white woman of society had genuinely desired a Creole servant. So they settled on a compromise story. She'd been bewitched, cursed, led astray by voodoo and dark arts. Etienne was exiled rather than executed, driven out of Louisiana with nothing but his life. The Beaumonts lost everything. The governor resigned in disgrace. Their property was seized for unpaid debts. Adelaide was institutionalized in a private asylum, where she spent the rest of her days painting the same image over and over. A young man with dark eyes, reaching toward her from deep water. She died in 1852, at age 33. They say she drowned in the asylum's fountain only 3 feet deep. The official cause was melancholic hysteria, but her body was found with both hands wrapped around her own throat, and her eyes were wide open, staring at something no one else could see. The cameo necklace disappeared the night of her death. Asylum staff swore it had been locked away, but when they went to retrieve it for her burial, the box was empty except for a small pile of brick dust and sulfur. In the Treem, in the Creole communities along the bayou, they still tell the story of Etienne Marchand. Some say he made it to Mexico. Others say he sailed to France and became a poet. A few claim he walked into the swamp the night he was exiled and was taken in by the spirits, becoming something neither alive nor dead, a guardian for others like him, crushed beneath the weight of impossible desire and unjust laws. But everyone agrees on one thing: the Beaumont mansion never recovered. Every family that bought it reported the same phenomena: a woman in white on the stairs, reaching for something that isn't there. The sound of chains in the cellar. Piano music playing in empty rooms. And on March 14th, every year, the smell of magnolias so strong it makes people sick, even though no magnolias grow on the property anymore. They tore the mansion down in 1923, built apartments on the site. The tenants still report seeing her, Adelaide, forever reaching for that cameo, forever trying to take back the words that curse forced from her lips, forever drowning in water that only she can feel. The scandal was scrubbed from official Louisiana history. You won't find the profane affair in your textbooks. The Beaumont family name was quietly absorbed into other lineages, their disgrace buried under generations of silence. But the story survived in whispers and warnings and the kind of folklore that carries truth your history books won't touch. So tell me something. Do you think justice was served? A man exiled for being the victim of a powerful woman's desire and then her betrayal. A woman who lost her mind, her life, and her soul, cursed to repeat her worst moment for eternity. A family destroyed. A scandal erased. Was that justice, or just tragedy wearing justice's face? Do you believe forbidden secrets always return? That what we bury always finds its way back? That curses, whether supernatural or social, always come home to roost? And here's the real question. If you were Etienne, chained in that cellar, holding that grease bag, knowing that speaking those words would destroy Adelaide completely, would you have done it? Would you have cursed her? Or would you have let her lies send you to your death? Tell me in the comments. I want to know, what would you call justice? Because somewhere in Louisiana on a March night when the storm rolls in, they say you can still hear piano music playing, still smell magnolias that shouldn't exist, still see a woman in white reaching for something she can never hold. And in the shadows, in the spaces between thunderclaps, some swear they see him, too, Etienne, watching, waiting. The witness history tried to erase, now immortal in the very folklore they tried to silence. The Beaumonts are gone. But the story remains. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only justice that ever really matters. Drop a comment, share this story. Don't let them erase it again. Subscribe for more untold history. The stories they buried, the voices they silenced. Every week,